Ready to roll?
Ready to roll.
Welcome to the first episode of our podcast about classic movies from the 80s and 90s that's so new and unprepared that we don't even have a name for it yet. Every fortnight we'll be looking at a movie that we probably saw as kids, even if we weren't old enough to fully understand the adult themes. I'm GB and this is my co-host, AJ.
How's it going, everyone? I am indeed AJ. This week on the podcast we don't have a name for yet, we're going to be talking about Blade Runner. Specifically, the final cut of Blade Runner, which is the cut that Ridley Scott, the director, had full artistic control of. There's 6 or 7 different versions of.
Too many different versions.
There's an awful lot.
So this came out in 1982. It was Ridley Scott's third film. After Alien, before Legend. And you watched Legend recently, didn't you?
I did. I watched it with the kids. I say I watched it. I managed half an hour. It was chronic, actually. Yeah, but maybe. But I think we should leave it for another day. I think it's one we should do. But it was chronic, and I was amazed actually that it was Ridley Scott at the helm. I won't lie.
There is a little Legend and Blade Runner link, isn't there, that we'll get into later?
There is indeed.
But anyway, Blade Runner, made on a budget of $30 million, which Ridley Scott didn't seem to think was enough to make it look any good, but more on that later. It made apparently only $41.8 million at the box office, was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, one for visual effects and one for art direction, which it didn't win. Probably should have. And it has an 89% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Someone hasn't read the script. Keep going.
Well, I have read the script. Oh, no, there it is. Yes. Yes, so I now need to talk about its legacy / iconic status, etc. You can edit these bits out, can't you? Presumably.
Yeah. We'll leave it in, but sure.
This is going so well. It's such a hugely iconic film. I've seen it many times. I've never really analysed it fully. I thought I felt a lot of The Fifth Element. Not the rain and drizzle. It was obviously very bright in The Fifth Element. There's so much of that visual texture to The Fifth Element. Also to The Matrix, the sort of grainy, green colour grading that it's got to it in a way. It's obviously appealed to a lot of directors over the last few years. Presumably you love it as much as I do.
No. I've seen it probably, this ticks many boxes for me for what I love about movies. It's a detective story set in a dystopian future with neon locations and spaceships, beautiful sets, starring one of my favourite actors in Harrison Ford, directed by the legendary Ridley Scott, music by Vangelis, plots about robots wanting more life. I mean, it's just incredible. And yet, I don't love it.
What you say you love Harrison Ford. I mean, why do you love Harrison Ford? Is that just because he was in Star Wars?
Because he was in Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and he's just excellent in everything. I think I've watched all his movies, and I don't think he's ever made a bad one. I remember he told the stories that he was in a movie right at the beginning of his career, and he was just playing like a porter or something in a hotel, and the director came over and said, "Son, you don't look like a star." And Harrison Ford's reply was, "I'm not meant to be a star, I'm meant to be a bellboy," or something like that. Which is like, that's what he does, right? He's just like usually the average guy. But God knows I've tried to love Blade Runner. It's just a bit meh to me. I mean, I've watched it 5 times or so, and every time I want to fall in love with it because it's a movie I should love. There are some things I love about it, and we'll get into those and why I don't love more of it. I just find it very frustrating, really frustrating.
Frustrating? But, interesting.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Every time I watch it, I end up just wanting it to end and just hurry up and be over.
No way.
It's just awful because there are some brilliant things about it. So let's talk about the cast, some acting and directing. Generally speaking, I think everyone was good, very good, but I'm not sure anyone is great.
Even your main man?
Is it an Oscar-winning performance? I mean, he didn't even get nominated for it.
It's not. So. No, I don't think there was any Oscar-winning acting. For sure, visuals, cinematography, all that sort of jazz, outstanding. Set design, all that sort of jazz. No, I don't think the acting was outstanding. It wasn't. You can't say that. Apart from Roy Batty at the end, his monologue, which is just stunning. I mean, it is stunning every time. It does move me to tears, especially with Vangelis soundtrack in the background.
Actual tears?
Nearly, nearly. It's the rain that washes them away. So, I read that he rewrote that the gentleman that wrote the script, it was similar, but it wasn't particularly outstanding. And actually, Dutch name, Rutger. He rewrote it, and he, depending on who you read, allegedly gave it to Mr. Scott on set and said, "This is what I want to say," or while the camera was rolling, he just read what he wrote. It introduced Daryl Hannah. I loved her in Splash, which is, a film we ought to do. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I haven't seen it for 30 years.
I love that makeup she does across her eyes and the backflipping that she does. And that was, she must be quite a gymnast. I didn't realise that she, that was all her. That wasn't a stunt at all. That was her doing her own backflips and stuff.
It's funny that you say you love her makeup and her agility, because I hated it.
That's so funny. Why?
Her character generally just weirds me out. And there are times in the movie when she's in it that I feel like it's not too far away from being a 90s Batman and Robin movie. Like, it's like weird little characters running around in like grubby locations with occasional pops of colour, and she's normally at the forefront of it.
Is that not the point, though? It's supposed to make you feel a bit uneasy or a bit weird, because they are effectively androids. They are not human. They want to be.
They want to
leave. Androids, replicants, sorry. Nexus 6 model.
She just weirds me out.
Right, fair enough.
It just makes me feel uncomfortable. And whether that's the point or not, I don't know, I just don't enjoy it. But anyway, Harrison Ford wasn't meant to be in it. It was written for Robert Mitchum, and they wanted Dustin Hoffman. Several actors were considered for it.
Are you trying to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson?
I'm going to read you a list now. Gene Hackman, Sean Connery, Jack Nicholson, Paul Newman, Clint Eastwood, Tommy Lee Jones, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No way.
Peter Falk, Nick Nolte, Al Pacino, and Burt Reynolds. I mean, I just feel like that would have been the list of any Hollywood A movie
at the time. That was just everybody was who's who in Hollywood at the time. Clint Eastwood.
Who would, if you couldn't have Ford, who would you have from that list?
Dustin Hoffman, I reckon. Maybe Gene Hackman. He would play a beat-up cop quite well. I think he has in the French Connection.
He's the closest to Ford, but I'd like to see Peter Falk do it.
Yeah.
I think that would be hilarious. Anyway, in terms of other castings, the Pris role, the Daryl Hannah, was turned down by Debbie Harry. That's
quite funny. I can see that. Yeah. Sort of punk rock kind of thing.
I don't know about you, but as a kid, I didn't pick up that Daryl Hannah was a sex robot.
I didn't until I was taking my notes, actually, and the cop in the precinct who was giving Deckard the brief, I was like, it's just your standard pleasure nexus. It's like, oh yeah, I see. You thought, are they for pleasure for humans or for the other replicants? Are replicants?
Oh, I never thought about that.
Right.
What did you think of Sean Young as Rachel, and in particular her chemistry with Harrison Ford?
It's interesting. I like the femme fatale look, the bright red lipstick, the sort of sensual smoking that's going on. God, they used a lot of smoke in that film. It's everywhere. We'll talk about that in a bit. She didn't know, or she's unaware, or she's not sure. She's always wondering if she's a replicant. And later, when he came round to her flat, basically now sexual assault made me feel very, very awkward in that scene where he pushes her against the wall and stops her from going out. And I'm going to kiss you now. She's a replicant, right? Not a human, so it's acceptable, is it? But still, in today's cinema, it makes me feel very awkward.
So Sean Young is like 17 years younger than Harrison Ford, for one. And she's young, she's inexperienced. But that scene that you're talking about, apparently Ridley Scott told Harrison Ford to push her. And in real life, she cried afterwards and was all quite uncomfortable about it. And she tells the story, I saw it on the behind the scenes, of how Harrison didn't really know what to do. So to try and to cheer her up, he pulled down his trousers and mooned her, which nowadays feels like the most inappropriate solution to that problem.
I know. We've just done some sexual assault, and now I'm going to show you my bare ass. But she said afterwards that it made her laugh.
Yeah, but that doesn't bother you then? You still love the movie?
I still do. I still do, because it pushes boundaries and it makes you think. The scene makes me feel uncomfortable, and it certainly makes me feel more uncomfortable, I think, in this day and age.
What makes you feel more uncomfortable, that scene or the one where Rutger Hauer takes Tyrell's eyes out?
Certainly the assault scene, not taking his eyes out. That didn't bother me.
I can't watch that.
Really?
Oh no, not for me.
That's interesting. I guess, you see, I see past the fact that someone's gouging someone's eyes out, and I just see a prop. I see squirty red liquid. Apparently, he was getting his head crunched, and apparently that's when you find out that Tyrell was actually a replicant as well. And so Rutger's killing his dad effectively, and then what he was going to do is go upstairs to the next floor or wherever it was, and the actual Tyrell was going to be in a cryo chamber, like a sort of sarcophagus kind of thing, and that's where he meets him. But they never filmed it. The concept art exists, and they sketched it out, but they never filmed it. They never got around to shooting that. So
I love that idea. I think that would have been good.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. I think
That
it's
little bluff.
what he would have done, whether he would have woken him up and then killed him, or I don't know. Where'd you go from here? There's another death scene.
Just more killing. Yeah. Did you know? I love that. So the actor that played Tyrell, Joe Turkel, he got the job because Ridley Scott apparently saw The Shining and saw him as the bartender in that, and so he's like, "Yeah, this is my guy."
No way. Do you know what? I didn't know he's in The Shining. Do you know what? Here you go. I've never seen The Shining.
No way.
Never. I've never seen The Shining.
Right. Okay.
I've read the book.
Noted.
But I've never seen The Shining.
okay.
Obviously, I've seen all the clips, and I know a lot of trivia about it. But I've never seen the full film. I think I've started it or caught half of it or something like that. But I know the main scenes, but I've never actually seen the full film.
Have you seen the movie Big Trouble in Little China?
Yes.
Then you will appreciate the guest appearance from I forget the guy's name now. Basically, he's the guy. Is it Hong? James Hong?
In the fridge.
But he's the guy that...
The guy in the fridge.
Yes. So he's in Big Trouble in Little China. He plays Lopan, David Lopan. And he just kept playing old sort of Asian guys that are a bit creepy. And yet he's in that movie, he's 50 years old. Anyway, Blade Runner.
Indeed.
Does anything exciting ever happen in this movie? Or is it just a constant meandering of following people who don't want to be doing the things they're doing?
I think it's exactly that. Nothing really exciting happens in the movie, bar him getting his eyes gouged out and Harrison Ford getting his fingers broken, which is quite uncomfortable.
But I'm not sure it's exciting. It's kind of dramatic. But for me, Blade Runner is a bit like, if it was a video game, it would be a reluctant job simulator.
It's true, isn't it? I mean, it is.
Let's talk about more positive. Let's talk about the visuals and the VFX, because they're fucking awesome.
They are. I mean, they are what makes the film.
In a way, how great the visuals are do a lot of the legwork for what a great iconic movie this is.
Yes, you feel the dirt and depression from every shot in the film. I mean, there isn't a single bright shot in the film, bar the original theatrical release where they escape to the countryside and, I don't know, find the American dream or whatever it is. In the version we watched, obviously, that ending doesn't exist because it just makes no sense unless, you want a happy ending. There is no brightness at any part of the film, bar in Tyrell's office with the highly polished floors. There's a brightness there. And what was interesting is there's a shot of Harrison Ford walking in, and you see this sort of shimmering light as if there's loads of water on the floor. And one of the electricians or the lighting guys.
I love this story.
He says, Ridley Scott said, I want to make it all, make it like this. And the lighting guy was like, well, why? Where's the water and stuff? And like, no, don't. Just make it happen.
I love that Douglas Turnbull and the crew questioned like the light motivation and all these sort of things. And then their day, it just boils down to, it's just cool. That was Ridley Scott's favourite scene, apparently.
Really? It gives you a sense of depth and opulence of how it gives you a sense of that class and the people on the street, eating from sort of fly shacks and, the dirt and grime on the street to having this huge office in this big pyramid, essentially, of the Tyrell Corporation. And the gilded floors, the highly polished floors and all that sort of stuff. The lighting throughout the film was nuts. They were in that building, and there's constantly like searchlights, just constant beams of light everywhere through all the shutters and through the windows and things like that. There's constantly, searchlights going on, but for, to what end, for what reason? And there's one moment where he's fighting Rutger in the building, and he gets really close to a window, and you can actually see just one of the spotlights quite clearly, a Frenzel, just there. It's just pointing at him,
Really?
Yeah.
What I love about the scene where Deckard is doing the test on Rachel, you got the light coming in from sort of outside, but it just lights up just like his nose down. Like, why would you light it like that? Like, you wouldn't do that today. You wouldn't see that in a movie today, but it's fucking great. And it's like real, and it makes it more believable, and like just draws you into the whole thing. And the whole movie isn't overlit like it would be now, and neither is it just terribly dark. Like, it's just, the whole thing is a vibe, but it's got this realistic thing about it. Like, the lighting isn't perfect. It's just, Deckard is just sat at a table, and however the light falls, the light falls. I'd love to have known how planned that light was. Like, his eyes are sort of in shadow, and like you're illuminating this bit, which is not necessarily the most interesting bit of a human being. I suppose he's asking the questions, but other things in there, like you see them eating like noodles, which are recognisable in like a Chinatown area. You've got advertising for like Atari, Coca-Cola, and all this stuff that sort of keeps it grounded and keeps it away from Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is like full of hope and visuals and characters and uplifting music, and this is not. Like, this is the opposite.
John Williams does write a good uplifting score. Well, I mean, we'll get to the music, I guess. Ridley Scott, I mean, this is his third sort of major film. He's still quite a new, director. Obviously, still, he's quite bankable because Alien happened. That was quite a big thing. But he'd come from advertising, and he'd come from advertising in the UK, and he'd got quite an advertising background. In advertising, you want to make a product look amazing. In a way, I suppose it doesn't really matter how it's lit. It's just trying to make that look quite sexy and appealing. Do you think that he came to it as a sort of, I want to make this look sexy and appealing, rather than, okay, there's a window here, so the light must be coming from here? Is it just like, I don't care about the concept of the lighting, I just want the lighting to look cool and mental?
Yeah, I think his primary was making it look good. I think this sort of motivation stuff, and, I get the rules and all that kind of stuff, but you've got to know when to break them. And I think he does an excellent job of that. But he said a great thing, which was the whole look of the film comes from the fact that they didn't have enough money to make it look good, and finding creative ways to solve that. I saw behind the scenes of the set they were shooting on, and it's some sort of TV lot that's meant to be like a New York street or something. And if you see it in daylight, it looks absolute dog shit.
It looks
dreadful.
Like,
it just looks cheap. It looks like a bad theme park.
It looks like Friends, the outdoor Friends shots, for example, in New York.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Ridley's like, shoot it at night, shoot it, cover it in water, cover it in smoke. I think he said, night, wet, smoke. Those three elements are in my armory.
Yeah.
I haven't got enough money.
That's it. There was a guy on the set who basically said, we kept looking to the east, and as soon as you could see like a bit of a glow in the sky, it was like, we've got about an hour of shooting left. And that's it. I mean, I love the use of smoke. I mean, in some of the behind the scenes shots, I mean, everyone's wearing like little the COVID masks, as we call them now. They're sort of paint and decorator masks. People have got like, someone's using an oxygen mask to because everyone's just constantly surrounded by smoke. They were using beehive smoke. Which is, I mean, I don't think you could get away with it today, just like flooding a whole soundstage with like smokes. Like, I can't fill it up. But I guess in a way it's like using distortion on guitar. You can cover up a lot of mistakes and issues by just flooding it with stuff. And it still gives you that sort of grime and dirt to it,
But this is what I love about old records and old movies, is it was the limitations that they had to work within that often made great results. Mm-hmm. And you don't get that as much now because CGI and all this digital stuff.
I think, it has a lot to do with the budget as well.
But he had $30 million. Like, he said we didn't have enough money to make it look good, but $30 million back then is
a not insignificant sum, right?
Should we move on to music?
Why not?
I'll go first. I find it irritating.
You don't like this film at all, do you? I'm quite shocked. I thought we were going to be talking about how much we love this film, and now I feel like I'm having to defend it.
You don't have to defend it. It's almost globally loved, and I'm absolutely in the minority. And I've really tried to love it. I'd be a cooler person if I loved Blade Runner, but right now my letterboxed review of it is like 2 stars.
Wow.
And yet I've rated Cabin in the Woods at 5 stars. So there you go. It tells you everything you need to know about me and movies.
That 2 star. Fair enough. Music. Vangelis. Obviously, I live in Greece. live from Athens right now. Bit of a Greek superstar here.
Barely live from Athens.
Sort of vaguely live, you know.
We're just about holding it together on this recording.
I think the synth is great. I think it adds the right sense of unease. It's not supposed to be nice, inspiring music like you know, you're referring to Star Wars earlier and John Williams making all those uplifting, wonderful, you know, brass sounds and things. I think the jarring chords of the synth from Vangelis it does it. It makes you feel uneasy, and they suddenly jump in, and it's like, oh god, and that's a jarring, dissonant synth happening there that just doesn't feel right, and I think it makes you feel uncomfortable. I think it's absolutely right. Would I listen to it as an OST? No. I'm not going to listen to that on Spotify driving somewhere. Hell no. I would listen to the Star Wars track. Absolutely. It's a good piece of music. It's not music that's designed to be listened to. It does complement the film very well. And
Vangelis will be chuffed with that. It's not music that's designed to be listened to.
He would if he was still
I'm
alive.
going to print that on a t-shirt.
Passed away now.
I'm sure he'd get by hearing your criticism.
It is jarring. It is
By design.
It is by design, and he came off the back of Chariots of Fire, which again was uplifting. I mean, that's a classic piece of music. That was uplifting in a way.
Could you give us a few bars on that?
Very good. The soundtrack is great. It reminds me a lot of like Jean-Michel Jarre or Eric Serra, who did the soundtrack to Big Blue, which is probably my favourite film of all time, Le Grand Bleu, if you will. Who also did the soundtrack for GoldenEye. Again, one of my favourite James Bond films. Yeah, Eric Serra. Vangelis. It was the right music. I liked it. It fit the film. I wouldn't listen to it.
Aside from it being jarring, I think the thing for me is it's one of those that stands out as being a marked period of time. So it feels almost dated, not necessarily in a good way, but subjective and all that. One thing I did like about the music is Ridley Scott on the set apparently got temp scores from Vangelis, and he had them played onto the set in giant speakers from the roof just to give everyone on there the atmosphere of how it's going to be, which I think is a brilliant idea.
I heard about that. I must admit, some of the crew, I mean, they're out in the rain, the smoke, the dark, they're cold, wet, probably hungry. And now you've got jarring synth music being played from speakers, which are probably clipping and distorting all over the shop. Oh,
Can you imagine your average person on their lunch break having to listen to Vangelis while they're like just trying to relax?
God, it must have been awful. It must have been awful.
Smoky, wet Vangelis.
Because there was one part in the behind the scenes where they said they only took like 2 shots, like if they got like 2 different shots in a whole night. That was great.
It's a bit like us recording this podcast over about 5 nights with like one section at a time.
It is. That's it.
Now, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. The first one is, this is 2019.
Yes.
This movie is set in 2019. And the whole thing just feels like a realistic future.
It does.
Like, one of the things I love is on the set there were like parking meters that are part of this normal street set that they use for a million things. And they padded them out to make them more futuristic. And they decided that people wouldn't pay with coins in the future. So they added a bit onto the parking meter where people could tap, as they described, a magnetic card to pay. And this is in like the behind the scenes, right? So basically they invented Apple Pay in 1982. I think that's incredible.
I missed that.
A lot of these futuristic movies come up with this kind of tech that ends up being around.
He was on the video phone to Rachel, and it suddenly dawned on me, oh yeah, this is made in the early 80s. That whole concept of talking over video, like making a telephone call over video, it's just the most normal thing in the world now. Like, we're doing it right now. I had a video conference earlier today. It's just the most normal thing in the world. But back then, the concept of doing that. And I wonder how much, if at all, I mean, it must have done to a degree, that these films and things have influenced how our technology has come along, has become. Did someone subliminally watch Blade Runner and go, yeah, I'm going to develop video calling? Would it have happened anyway? You know, it's an interesting thought.
What's funny is that their vision of the future in 2019 is a better, clearer call than I've got of you right now recording this podcast. Because you're very pixelated right now.
Am I? I look fine.
Anyway, that doesn't matter. I watched this movie with my girlfriend who had never seen it before. She didn't like it either. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. She described it as a dystopian movie, but I don't think it is. I think it's just a gritty detective story set in the future and not realistically too far away from how things are probably going to be in not that many years.
I'll agree with that. I agree that it's not dystopian at all. It's not. There's no dystopian. It implies that there's been an event and whatever generally cataclysmic event has happened that's caused this future. I think this is just a future that exists. That we've ended up into, where a corporation has built robots, AI. We're almost there with all the technologies and things we've got. It's just a future that exists, and these replicants have to be retired as opposed to executed, as it says at the beginning.
It's just a future where everyone's fucking miserable.
Yes.
And as the more I live in this world, the more I can understand how we're getting there.
I completely empathise. I do.
Got a bit dark, didn't it? Got a bit dark.
I did.
Let's keep it light. But yeah, the fear of AI is running through this, and it's watching it in 2024. It feels like it's not. This could have been made yesterday, and it's still sort of on topic. AI developing emotions, having to give it a 4-year lifespan as like a defense mechanism. My Chat GPT has not got a 4-year lifespan.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, I was saying to you earlier, about Chat GPT. It's pretty good. Some of the mistakes it makes are howling. But 5 years ago, we didn't really even have Chat GPT. I've only started recently using it the last sort of month, to be honest, getting on board with it. Since seeing you
think by now you've known
UK.
it's called Chat GPT, not GTP.
Is it? That's GP. Oh, that's
GPT.
Hilarious. Why do I call it GPT?
I just wanted to raise that now before you get abuse in the comments.
No, that's fair enough. Well, I relish the abuse, to be honest.
My number one question for you, as a fan of the movie, is Deckard a replicant?
The jury's still out.
Does it fucking matter?
Does it matter? I don't think it does ultimately. And if he is a replicant, does he know?
No, I'd say no. I mean, aside from the unicorn origami bit, there's not much to suggest that there's anything to him being a replicant at all. Almost nothing.
The only thing is the unicorn bit and the eyes. There's a point where he's with Deborah in his flat, and his eyes for a second. Is it Deborah? I think he's with Deborah.
Rachel?
I meant Rachel.
Deborah?
I was pulp. I was going all pulp. Let's all meet up in the year 2000. Won't it be strange?
I'm talking to Blade Runner Superfan AJ.
It's all going well. Rachel, we're on a break. See what I did there. He was talking to Rachel in his flat, and there was that sudden, just for a second, a fleeting moment of red tint to his eyes that all the replicants have at some point in the film, even including the owl at the end. You can see the red eyes. The gentleman, the policeman whose name I've forgotten.
James Edward Olmos. Gaff.
That's the one. He's quite prominent in the film, and he's always in the background, and he evidently resents, Deckard, and he's always walking around with a cane. And one of the sort of theories that exists out there is that Deckard has his memories uploaded to him because Deckard dreamed about the unicorn. And the unicorn that happened in the dream, I said, when I was watching it, I said, oh, that's just like Legend. Because in Legend, there's a massive unicorn. Well, not a massive unicorn, just an average-sized unicorn, I suppose. I wouldn't say. I don't know how big unicorns come, but there was a unicorn in Legend, and then when this happened the other night, both my daughter and I picked up on the fact that same director, and then there's this unicorn that's happening. He had this dream about a unicorn, and then later on in the film, Gaff leaves a little unicorn origami piece, and right at the beginning of the film, he leaves an origami piece, and they focus in on it, as to, get your attention on it. And in the end, he leaves this unicorn piece, insinuating that he knows his dreams because he has the same dreams. So is he a replicant? And how old is he? How long has he got left? They run off into the sunset together, and they've probably got 2 months. If they run off into the sunset, depending on which release you've seen.
So a couple of things here. Firstly, the eye thing, the red eye, the behind the scenes of that was just an in-camera effect that they used by basically shining a light into their eyes. And I think, deliberate or not, it's in there. So it's canon, if you want to call it that. But I think wasn't deliberate. The other thing, the unicorn scene was not in the original. That was added from the director's cut onwards. So that again wasn't in the original vision for it, if you want to call it that.
That was in the actual director's cut, was it, as well as the final cut?
I think so, yeah. The director's cut and the final cut are very similar, apparently. I might have seen the director's cut one of the times I viewed it years ago, but I can't tell you. And as the living happily ever after dreadful studio mandated ending that was on the theatrical release in 1982. I mean, it's dog shit. Everyone thinks it's dog shit. But then there's some theory that at some point, I think Gaff says, or Tyrell says, that Rachel is special and infers that she doesn't have the 4-year time limit. But it's all irrelevant because it's not in this version.
So it's stupid. So we don't count it.
So if you had to bet money, Deckard replicant or not?
No, not replicant. Not replicant.
Anything you want to talk about?
Yes. There is. Just pause it here for a minute.
Discreetly picks up his notes. I think that's on the script.
I've written some, and I've thought of stuff as you've been talking. I was like, I must talk about that, and then I've completely forgotten what it was I wanted to say.
Are these your handwritten notes that you sent me a picture of?
I'll tell you what, look at.
Excellent.
That is a lot.
I don't know how you're going to read this. I mean, I couldn't read one line of that there because it's so pixelated, but I know what they look like.
I've written a lot of notes, and I was going to type them up, and then I asked ChatGPT to type up some notes. That's GPT, same thing. It's all good. Plot, cinematography, futuristic visuals of 1940s noir, iconic wide shots, cityscapes, mini splits. I want to know how much money Coca-Cola paid them to have those Coca-Cola adverts. Product placement. But that's, you see the adverts around. Obviously advertising is a big thing. Now, advertising is a big thing. Then it's all in your face. It's like you can't get away from the, advertising everywhere. All the neon lights. What was really interesting was all the Chinese and Japanese signs and neon flashing everywhere. The geisha lady that's always sort of just there, but you don't really know what she's advertising. She's just there. I think she might be smoking at one point. I'm not entirely sure, but you don't really know what she's advertising. And then you see a couple of shots of like, off-world is better. And there's been a few films made about where the rich and elite can go and live off-world and it's better. But you don't actually get a glimpse of what off-world is. You just know that it's better if you can afford it. Off-world is better, and that's obviously what all the replicants are doing is making, I don't know, terraforming planets or terraforming space stations or who knows what off-world where it's better, and those that are left just have to sort of slum it out and keep the peace. I didn't know that there was a voiceover done for it. You touched on it earlier, that no one likes. I mean, it is universally panned, and it's only when I started researching, after I watched the film and started researching it, that there was a voiceovered, or not a voiceover, but a narrated part from Harrison Ford, which I don't think even when I'd seen the film before, so I must have either watched the director's cut or the final cut and not the theatrical release, because I wasn't aware of it at all. And Harrison Ford hated doing it. It sounds, he's very monotone from the clips that I've seen. He's clearly not having a good time recording it. And it is painting by numbers. It's, he's going into the drawer and taking the photographs out. And, I took the photographs out and it was very strange to see, replicants having photographs. Like trying to really explain the plot just because some producers were like, yeah, no one's going to understand this. We don't basically trust the director and his vision. So we're going to have Harrison Ford explain exactly what's going on.
And it was largely repetitious anyway. I get the film noir attempt at being that kind of thing, but whether it was just a bad concept, I just don't think it works. It doesn't need it, for one. And there was a lot of rumours about Harrison Ford trying to sabotage it, but he came out and said he just did bad work. But it's a bit like the happy ending. It's been taken out. Everyone thinks it's dog shit. Do we need to talk much more about it? I think what was also interesting is apparently, and ChatGPT did tell me this, because I remember hearing this rumour long ago, before the internet was a thing, really. And it was that in some versions, Harrison Ford's voice had been redubbed. And I thought for a long time that there was like proper international releases, the American release or whatever, that had Harrison Ford's character with someone else just doing his voice and ADRing all his lines. Mm-hmm. Apparently, that's not the case. But ChatGPT tells me that in the international release, I'm reading this, some of the narration was re-recorded by a voice actor to sound more energetic, which altered Ford's original delivery. Now, I don't know how true that is, but part of me wants to know what that sounds like.
Wow. Not aware of that at all.
Maybe ChatGPT is getting confused and it's just thinking about the Dutch version where he is just redubbed by someone in Dutch.
Quite possibly. Maybe Rutger himself, being the Dutch gentleman that he is.
Stop! I'm not ready to die yet.
Stop! I have another 3 months left. I loved the machine, the Van Gogh machine, not Van Gogh. You know what I'm trying to say. The replicant test, where they look at the eyes.
I almost said Mein Kampf then. It's not that.
Can't say that.
I can't think what it's called.
That one.
Cut that out, will you?
Yeah, absolutely. At the very beginning, where he's doing the test, just before he gets blown away by the replicant, you see the bellows, and he says he's going to ask him a question about his mother, and he said, "I'll tell you about my mother," and then shoots him. And he shoots him, and he flies through a polystyrene wall.
Yeah,
it's just so obviously polystyrene. It's not even like just a set. It's like polystyrene. There you go.
And did you think the same thing I did? I had one question about that scene, which was, where did he get that bloody gun from?
I guess he had it hidden on him. They didn't do a very good shakedown.
Prisoner just has gun on them.
Was he a prisoner? Or had he just been brought in for...
I thought it was.
Well, no, because he was one of the guys that had come from, back to Earth. And they were bringing him in for questioning, presumably. And I think that set the tone and the scene for the film. But I don't think he was a prisoner. Or was it? I don't know, actually.
I found it weird that you're in police custody, effectively being interviewed, and just got a gun on you.
Was that the police station? Was that not the Tyrell office?
Oh, do you know what? It's made me dislike it even more. It's down to 1 star now. The confusion. The producers accused Ridley Scott of shooting too many takes, which he didn't take very kindly to. And he was getting frustrated because he was coming from commercials and wasn't used to working in like the union system or something. So he'd just be getting stuck in on set, picking up the camera or whatever, or looking through it and framing it. And all the other guys would be getting pissed off thinking like he was taking their jobs and stuff. But I just love the idea of someone saying, Ridley Scott's filming too many takes. And there was something I watched where they just showed the amount of shots he filmed of someone just putting down like a fish on a plate in that little sushi bar.
That's right.
Just like, no, that's the one.
And there was one of the producers or one of the financiers who sort of took him to task and said, like, look, why was the 30th take so much better than the first take of, I don't know, you picking up that prawn, for example, or whatever, but he said he always managed to explain why.
It's costing them thousands because they're shooting on film.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing we take for granted now is, digital. I mean, you just, all right, filling digital memory cards, but it's they're quite cheap in by comparison to film stock, for God's sake.
Some poor fucker's got to load it, cut it, shift it.
One of the production runners, I suppose, who was looking at the dailies, obviously the shots they'd taken every day kind of thing. She said, never have I worked on a film where I saw the dailies and actually went, wow, it looks amazing. There was no further need for editing or anything like that. The quality was so good. Well,
imagine what your effects budget would have to be now to make it look like that, because every shot would be a VFX shot. Like just a street scene, there'd be some VFX in it somewhere. It's
all just soundstage, and there's sort of some rubble and maybe an old car and like, I don't know, the Hulk standing here and Thor standing here or whatever, but then it's just green.
I think you're quite optimistic in thinking that the Hulk is going to be one of the people stood there.
That's a valid point, actually.
But also, a danger of sounding like two grumpy old men, because I don't know about you, but Blade Runner 2049 might well have been shot very much in camera if Sir Roger's got anything to do with it. I don't know.
I don't know if Roger Deakins is extensively a film user or if he uses digital now.
I think he's okay with digital if memory serves me right, but this is just like photographic film, and there's like, I don't know, 36 shots or something in this. And I know how expensive this is for 36 frames, effectively. It terrifies me, the idea of running this through a camera at 24 frames a second and paying this much for it.
That's like 1.5 seconds worth of shot.
But there we are. Harrison Ford was unhappy. Shock horror. He was annoyed that he wasn't involved in the creative process. Sean Young said she called him Harry in the documentary I saw.
Yeah.
She said, Harry was never happy on that movie unless it was close to rap.
And then he was
I've never heard anyone called Harrison Ford Harry before.
I wonder what he would take from that, you know.
He rowed with Ridley Scott, and Ridley Scott described him as the biggest pain in the ass he's ever worked with.
Apparently they did fall out. They reconciled some years later. They do get on now, but I think, you know. But I mean, it's almost part of the method acting. You've got to keep, you know, if you're playing a pissed off character, but you're quite happy on set and you're getting on with everyone, it's going to show.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that. I think that's your job as an actor, isn't it, to separate reality from the character?
Is it though? Isn't that the point? I mean, that's
if you're getting paid $10 million and you're the best in the business and you can't turn up to a sci-fi movie set, they're like, all right, everyone, how are you doing? Yeah, good day. Well, I decided to sit here and open my drawer of pictures. I mean,
who are you? Right?
I'm cheaper than $10 million, if anyone.
Yeah. I like it.
Ridley Scott banned the use of the word android on set. And this is his words, I think. He threatened to cave in the head of anyone that used it with a baseball bat.
I didn't know that.
Because he didn't want to have people to have preconceptions of what the film might be about. So I think he said he invented the word replicant, but maybe he didn't. But they chose the word replicant very specifically.
I can see why. I guess android gives you that robot kind of, you immediately visualize that, whereas a replicant, you know, they wanted humanoids. You couldn't tell unless you do the test.
Well, yeah, I don't know about you, but I've moved into our little section now that we've titled Plot Holes, Continuity, Mistakes and Trivia.
Oh, is that right?
I've just segued into it. I've just gone into it.
Beautiful.
So my next bit of trivia is the designs from Blade Runner would go on to be included in one of the greatest films of all time, The Last Starfighter, such as Centauri's star car.
I didn't know that.
Centauri's star car and The Last Starfighter rates highly for me, far more than Blade Runner. Last Starfighter, 4 stars. Blade Runner, 1.5 now.
I'm sad. I've not seen The Last Starfighter in so long. I didn't realise they used part of the sets.
Did you see the ridiculous raincoats? This is in Blade Runner now.
This is in Blade Runner. I mean, the one she was, the exotic dancer was running in. That was ridiculous. Raincoat.
I thought that was equally as shit and ridiculous as it is totally something you might see a celebrity wear today.
Exactly that. So, you know,
which means they've done a great job.
They have done a very great job. Why she's running through plate glass windows? It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that she's running from, but she runs through like 3.
How do you feel like Deckard just shooting her?
It's an interesting point. My first initial thought was, how did he know for sure that she's a replicant? I know he had his suspicions, and he's matched up the scale, and he's found a scale of the snake, and he's starting to ask the questions. And
was she a replicant?
Yes,
I think that might have passed me by.
She was a replicant. She was one of the replicants that had come to Earth. She is a replicant.
I think this was around the time I just did a massive exhale.
He certainly didn't do the test on her. It could just be a woman escaping from a bloke who's come into her dressing room and is acting all bloody weird. And now you're charging down the street, shooting her. It's like, Christ, man, you know?
Oh, I know. I just remembered. I realised why I didn't put 2 and 2 together and realise she's a replicant. Because I think it was at the point where I turned to my girlfriend and went, boobs.
There were some knockers at that point. Yeah.
Speaking of knockers, no, that's not it. Philip K. Dick, dead.
Yeah.
He died just before it was released, but apparently liked the script and said it was the world just as he imagined it.
Very loosely based on the book, though, very loosely.
Oh, really? I don't know the book. Have you read it?
I have. It's one of my favourite books, actually. There's a lot of, you know, the characters and things like that. It's very loose kind of thing.
So is Deckard in it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was assuming that the book, which is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, right?
Yes.
I assumed it was just some sort of tale about robots and life and things, and they'd put the characters, they'd sort of invented the characters, but they're in there mostly.
Yes. No, I mean, it's still, you know, it's still a very philosophical book. It's still a philosophical look about, you know, as the film is, you know, and this is the thing about the whole film, and I'm surprised that you don't like it. And I understand why you don't like it. And maybe because you're not educated enough. I love I just love the philosophical nature of it, because all films, I say all films now, and then, if you look at Die Hard or you look at Lethal Weapon, they're all action. Then you can watch them and there's just shooting and killing and wah.
And this is no action.
There's no action, not action like you're used to. But it's very philosophical, and it makes you question a lot of things about.
But I think that's why I was disappointed in it, because I felt like they didn't make me think about it all as much as I wanted to. I think there was so much left unexplored.
Like what? What would you amplify?
Just something about the way they want more life. Why do they want more life? What do they want to do with their lives? It took such a minimalist approach in terms of the philosophy, which normally I like. Like, I love your iceberg storytelling normally. But I think in a film like this, that was just kind of, how little can we put in there to make it almost like an arty movie without really following up on some of their ideas. That's how I've left it almost every time. I feel like there was a lot more that could have been in there and could have been interesting to think about.
Yeah, interesting.
Because I love the concept. I love everything about it, except the fun and enjoyable experience I have when I watch it.
I don't think it's supposed to be a fun and enjoyable experience. I think everything about the film is geared to make you feel uncomfortable.
The original theatrical ending is the one where they drive off into the sunset and we've lost all the night and suddenly we're in daytime. Did you know, I'm sure you did, that those shots of them driving through the mountains, if you've seen it, were taken from The Shining, just lifted.
I did hear that he used the aerial shots.
Just to nick them.
I've not seen...
I should say, for legal reasons, he probably didn't nick them. He probably got someone's permission to use them legally in the film.
I've not seen the original ending at all. I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to see that.
It's horrible. It's literally like Harrison Ford and Sean Young smiling at each other as they drive off up a mountain. We've got one thing left to do, unless you've got anything else you want to bring up from your handwritten notes.
I'm just having a look at my handwritten notes now.
Do you want me to pad for time, tell a joke?
Go for it. Do it.
This is basically like when we present awards together.
It's exactly like when we present awards together. I love the fact that we got the idea from this just because we were texting backwards and forwards about a film we'd seen. And we were like, oh, this is so great. And did you know this? And did you know that? And God, did you know this? And did you know that? And it was all flowing so seamlessly.
That text went on for days.
It did. They were like, we should just make a podcast.
And I'm going to say what it is. It was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
We should review that.
Which is as far from Blade Runner as possible.
It is, isn't it? Why did we start with this?
That's a 5-star movie.
That is a 5-star movie.
Spoiler alert.
What was your favourite scene?
Oh, yes, we didn't do favourite scene.
Did you see the segue I made?
I don't have a favourite scene, but I'll give you my least favourite.
Really? God. Go on then.
All right, if I had to have a favourite scene, it would be the test, just because of the test with Rachel, just because of the lighting.
Yeah.
The credits. No, my least favourite scene is something that has an absolute pet peeve of mine and many other people, I'm sure. And it does something I hate in movies, and that's the taking a shit image and going enhance, 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 and it all just suddenly comes to life and looks incredible. And this one seems to be able to reveal things that weren't even captured in the original image. Do you know this scene?
No.
Ford's there and he's giving voice instructions like pull back, enhance, 23 to 44.
I love that.
Left a bit. And I can't help feeling it'd be quicker with a keyboard and mouse.
I thought you liked it when Harrison Ford spoke anyway.
I mean, I could listen to him read the phone book, but...
I liked it because it was another example of technology in use today. We talked to our phones. I mean, you were doing it the other day when we were hosting the awards together, which is something we do and are available for. But you were talking to your phone as if it was the most normal thing in the world to give it instructions to find something out for you. And he was doing the same thing. And
should we talk about what we were trying to find out? We were trying to divide a number by 4, if I remember rightly.
It was basically trying to find. We had a running order of 34 awards, and we had to divide it by 3 or something like that to find where we could do the comic segments, right? And it just kept coming back with absolute crap. And you were like, and you kept talking to it like it was a person, which I loved. And you were like, and you said, oh, I've got this thing and I want to do this thing. And it came up with an answer. And you're like, I don't think you've quite understood me. What I'm trying to do is this. And then it came back with an answer. And you're like, not quite. Let's try this. And, as if it's a child or something. And I was like, Christ. And I've never really spoken to a device like that. I've never really talked to a device. I don't do that thing, but a lot of people do.
It is a new thing with ChatGPT, I will say.
Yeah. And I thought it was really interesting that Deckard was talking to his, he's sat there with his whiskey or whatever he's doing, and he's like enhancing this photograph, and he's like left 43, enhance 64-24, doing that thing. And he's talking to a computer, which then was completely unheard of, but now it's so commonplace. And a computer, and you've got the square, the boxes, and all the noises and all that kind of stuff. And it's very
Love that it sounds like a dot matrix printer.
It does. I mean, it does.
It does in my head anyway.
And I loved it. I thought that was really, really cool because, again, it's just another thing that we take for granted now that was so ahead of its time.
I'm going to ask you your favourite scene, but before I do, I'm going to tell you my favourite line, which I've just remembered.
Go on.
And the line is... Give me a minute.
God, this is going to be good.
Watch her take pleasure from the serpent.
I hadn't noticed that line, to be honest. I know exactly what you're talking about now. But yeah. Just before then, where they're introducing, the pleasure district and all that jazz. And there's two, I don't know, pole dancers or go-go dancers wearing fucking hockey masks. I don't know if you... It's the most horrific... That's probably the most scary thing about the film, I think, was those two ladies dancing on poles with like Freddy Krueger masks on. And so, just the prop guy coming in was like, I put these on, it would look great.
Me and him have the same search history. We've only taken an hour and 20 minutes to warm up and get into this.
I know, we're finally here, right?
Here we are.
No, this is the level we operate at. I was trying to be all like cool about it.
Go on, what's your favourite scene?
The end. It's the monologue. It's the monologue. It's everyone's favourite. It's everyone's favourite.
Does the fact that he's called Roy Batty not ruin it for you somewhat?
Roy Batty boy. I mean, that's just...
We're going to get cancelled on the first episode. You've said Batty boy, I've said Mein Kampf.
Relax your Batty.
I have to have a serious conversation with you after this to see whether you want me to cut this out.
Real Batty crease. Sorry. So my favourite scene is the end. It is the end because... Oh, sorry. I need a drink now. It's the end. It's that monologue. I love a good dramatic monologue. And it's fantastic. It's gorgeous. He's rescued Deckard from falling. He's been trying to kill him. He's killed his girlfriend, his mates, his lovers. It's the end. This guy's dying anyway. And he's like, I want to kill him. He's about to fall off a roof. But he saves him. He has this change of heart for whatever reason. And then he sits down knowing he's about to die and just gives this beautiful, beautiful speech. And the lighting's perfect. The rain is perfect. It's running down him. He's the perfect villain. He's got this classic 80s villain. He's got the white hair slicked back. He's always wearing dark clothes. And he's now sitting there and he's suddenly changed. And it's just the things he talks about, which I love, like I've seen attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion, bright as magnesium, and stuff like that, they'll be gone like tears and rain. These memories will be gone like tears and rain. It's just beautiful, and I've seen it loads of times, and I've used it as examples in drama classes and things like that to kids at the school. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. It is. It's
the sort of thing where now I think if you'd put that in a modern movie without that existing in 1982, I think it would potentially be seen as a bit naff.
I agree. I do agree with you, actually, yeah. I don't think you could get away with it now.
It's almost too poetic.
It's too Shakespeare. People don't want that.
And his motivation, his change of his reasoning of saving him from falling off the building would be, oh, well, he just took a lazy way out when writing the script.
Yeah.
But because it came out in 1982, we think it's great.
Absolutely. It was beautiful. And without it, the film would be the worse for it. That might be a whole star for me. Just that monologue.
A whole extra star.
A whole extra star.
I tell you what I do like, and this is going to sound like a joke, but it's not meant.
It's going to be a joke.
The very last shot of the movie when he pulls her into the lift and the door shuts.
Yeah.
Great ending.
Why?
Just a nice. The ambiguity is great.
Yeah, it is. That's the thing, isn't
it? That literally closing the door on the story at that point.
Yeah.
And just there's something about the look on Ford's face, and it's kind of, they're not walking out the door happy.
No.
They're tense AF as they
well, yeah,
out.
I mean, they're running for their lives, essentially, or her lives. He wants to protect her. He wants to look after her for however long she's got left.
It's a weird concluding scene in a way after everything you've just talked about with Roy Batty. That big dramatic scene, and then, oh yeah, right, we'll just go back to his apartment and see them walk out the door.
Yeah.
It shouldn't work, but it does. And the bit with James Edward Olmos, gaff, and it's a bit naff. You sort of hear the echo of what he said about the unicorn and all that kind of thing, but it works. It's a great finale.
You hear the echoing in his head. I think too bad she won't live, but then who does? We all die.
And on that note, there's one thing left to do, and we're going to do this in every episode that we do.
Okay, it's time for the next award.
No, that's for the award ceremony.
Oh, sorry.
We've finished with that now.
Flashbacks.
Until 2025. My idea is every episode we will tier list rank the movie.
Okay.
And then later on, every, 20 episodes or something, we can put together a little tier list of all the movies ranked.
Jesus.
I mean, we might not make 2. But so, yes, we will rank the film between A, B, C, or D, or S tier, which is superior.
Oh,
I don't know
not
if it
shit.
stands for superior. No, not shit. It's top.
Okay.
Top, like extra special.
Okay.
So where would you put it?
A. It's a brilliant piece of cinema. It paved the way for so many more films. A lot of directors were influenced by it. So many movies, so many color grades. There's so much that Blade Runner has given to other films. I can't give it any less than an A, but I wouldn't say it's superior.
Why would you not give it the S tier? What is it missing for you?
I don't know. And this is the thing. I wasn't expecting a superior. This does hit me a little bit. It's blindsided me, this superior. Because I just thought that was going to be shit. S for...
It'll be interesting to see over the next few months if we do put anything in S and what it is. Big Trouble in Little China.
Last Starfire.
Yeah.
Definitely not Legend.
Like when I was younger, I would tell people I liked Blade Runner because I felt compelled to give in to what people expected. And I was probably afraid of getting hurt, if I was honest. And I look at this tier ranking and I go, could I put it in a B? I don't think I can.
No.
I think I'd put it in a C. It's not a D. Like it's
I
not
was expecting you to
movie.
give it a D. I won't lie. From all you've said so far, I was expecting you to go, nah, D, whatever. Good film.
There is so many. There are good things about it. Like the visuals are incredible.
I think the legacy.
The legacy alone.
Yeah.
But some of the concepts that are brought up in it, some of the performances, but just for its visuals alone, I'm going to give it a C. I'm going to.
I hear you. I do. I think you said why.
Don't say that. I think you should stand your ground.
No. I hear you.
Tell me I'm a lunatic.
I hear you. No. I'm not. Well, you are. I think you're mental for not liking it as much as you do. I thought you'd like it more than you do. I am surprised, genuinely, that you don't like it as much as I do. I thought you'd really, really like this film because of a cinematography background. And I know you love the visuals and all that sort of stuff, but I thought you'd really like the concept of it, the philosophy behind it. And don't get me wrong, I think to have a superior ranking from me, I could easily watch it again. I don't think I could watch that film now for another 5 years, unless I really had to for whatever reason. If someone said like, oh, I've never watched it, can you watch it with me? I would. But for me to go, yeah, I want to stick on Blade Runner and watch it, I can't. But it's not superior because I don't really want to watch it again for a while.
To give people a peek behind the curtain, we've been trying to record this podcast for 2.5 hours, and we had a lot of technical difficulties at the beginning of this. So bear with us.
Yeah.
It'll get better. When you had all your technical problems at the beginning, I turned off all those nice lights behind me to save batteries. Never turned them back on again.
I did wonder like why you haven't got your fancy lights on, but I didn't want to say anything.
Thanks for telling me.
That's right. Do you want to quickly switch them on so everyone could just so people could see them?
Well, I could use this as a cliffhanger now. Tune in to the next podcast. Next video version of this to see what that looks like.
Oh.
There we go. So we'll say goodbye. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another film. I've written here, don't say what it is, just tease it.
All right.
That's quite difficult because we haven't discussed what it's going to be.
Bloody what it's going to be or what we're going to talk about. I've really enjoyed this. I have. It's going to be a right laugh.
Anyway, say goodbye, AJ.
Goodbye.
Bye. That'll do, innit?
That's it. Have you stopped recording now?
No.
No.
We might
Oh,
get some gold. Might get the best bit.